Question number 8, Kris Faafoi.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister responsible for Housing New Zealand Corporation. How many Housing New Zealand properties along Esk Place and Hazard Grove in Porirua will be demolished and sold? And is he aware of any other planned Housing New Zealand sales in the Porirua area?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, firstly can I tell the member that decisions on the day-to-day management of these homes are an operational matter for Housing New Zealand, and the Minister does not make decisions. No decision has been made yet by Housing New Zealand regarding the use of land on these locations, but Housing New Zealand do advise that 3 vacant multi-unit blocks containing 15 units at Esk Place and Hazard Grove will be demolished. Housing New Zealand advises a total of 23 vacant properties are pending for sale in Porirua, around 1% of the New Zealand housing properties there, 2,681. But I'm pleased the member asked the question because it highlights a number of aspects of what needs to change. 20 of the 23 for sale are 3-bedroomed houses. The majority of the 63 people on the waiting list in Porirua want 1-bedroom homes, not 3-bedroomed houses. So Housing New Zealand can't really use those homes effectively with people off the waiting list. It needs to change its stock so it has 1-bedroomed homes for single-person households, not 3-bedroom homes which were appropriate 50 years ago. Housing New Zealand advises that it will reinvest according to need in Wellington, and that may be in the Porirua area, or it may be where demands for social housing are higher.
Supplementary, Mr.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Has the fact that these properties have been damaged while waiting earthquake strengthening led to the decision to demolish and sell the land?
Honourable Bill English.
I simply can't answer that question.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Will all funds raised from the sale of Housing New Zealand properties along Esk Place and Hazard Grove be earmarked for construction of new Housing New Zealand properties in the same community, or will it simply go into the consolidated fund?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I think almost certainly these funds will be recirculated in Housing Corp New Zealand. As I said, part of the reason there are 23 properties for sale in Porirua is because they are mostly, 20 of them are 3-bedroomed houses, and the people on the waiting list in that area are a majority of single-person households, and so Housing Corp will be changing the nature of its stock across Wellington to accommodate the changing needs of the tenants. Because after all, I know sometimes it seems odd to the Labour Party, but we care more about the tenants and meeting their needs than about the government owning houses that are no longer efficient or effective in meeting the housing need in Porirua. What's the point in keeping all the 3-bedroomed houses when we don't have people who need them?
Order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order. Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, I'd like you to reflect on the answer the Minister just gave. Not the first part of the answer, but the second part of the answer. That was a very straight, factual question from Kris Faafoi that didn't contain any attack on the government, and instead what we got from Bill English was a long dissertation on what he thought the Labour Party's position was. That's going to lead to a very lopsided question time if that sort of thing's going to continue.
Order. I will certainly reflect on the answer that was given. The initial part of the Minister's answer was actually a very, very genuine attempt, in my opinion, to answer the question that was raised. I accept there was some political connotation in the latter half of the answer. I will have a look at it for the member. Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker. What is the profile of potential buyers of the land left vacant by demolitions on Esk Place and Hazard Grove?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm not the local real estate agent, but so I can't help them, but I imagine there are many young New Zealand families who may find a 3-bedroom house at reasonable value in Porirua quite an attractive option compared to others. We certainly don't agree with the Labour Party policy that the government must continue to own those 3-bedroomed houses when there aren't people on the waiting list in any significant number who can use them. And if they think we should be putting single people into 3-bedroomed houses, then they don't understand what their tenants want. The tenants who live on their own want single or double-bedroomed houses, not large, colder 3-bedroomed houses on big sections or in multiple blocks that they find hard to maintain. We're just trying to respond to tenant need. Labor are obsessed with owning all the state houses.
The answer's long enough.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Why does the government think there will be interest from private investors for social housing on land left vacant by his planned demolitions at S Place and Hazard Grove, given there has been no interest from private investors for social housing for the nearby plot of barren land on Calliope Crescent, owned by Housing New Zealand?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, those are all matters for Housing New Zealand, but I don't see any reason why New Zealand families trying to get their foot on the bottom rung of the home ownership ladder, possibly with the assistance of the government's Home Start package, why they wouldn't be interested in 3-bedroom units in Porirua, or if those units are demolished and something else is built, why they wouldn't be interested in shifting there. I've great confidence in that community. It's a stable, community-orientated kind of place, attractive for families to move to.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Kris Faafoi.
I seek leave to table 2 documents, the first one being a photo of some vacant houses that will be soon demolished on Hazard Grove.
That information won't help the House.
Oh, they haven't been there.
Order. Second document, member.
This is a picture of the vacant land left for 6 years.
Order.
That hasn't been
The member will
developed.
resume his seat. The member needs to have a look at standing orders and the reason for tabling documents. Order. When I'm speaking to the member, I don't expect him to continue interjecting. The purpose of tabling documents is if it's something that is informative for the House and something that is difficult for members to obtain. The purpose of tabling documents is not to further make a political point. Question number 9, Kanwal Singh Butler.